Thanks for joining me here on my channel, Classable ESL. I'm Haley, coming to you from a slightly different setting today, but with the same type of content. Before I decided to start this channel, I watched a ton of videos from other creators within this online education niche. I found most, not all, but most of their content really useful, helpful, and motivating. In the short time since I started publishing videos on this channel, I have already connected with so many viewers and read some really interesting perspectives in the comments on some of my videos. And it goes without saying that family, friends, and even just some random people have given me their often unsolicited perspective on online teaching and my choice to be an online teacher. So now that you know where I've sourced my information, I should go ahead and introduce the content of this video. Common misconceptions about online teaching. Let's start with the non-online teacher's perspective. Number 1, it's not a real job. It's a scam. It's not a legit business. You're not running a legit business. Those of us who are actually getting booked and teaching lessons, we know that this is BS. There are lots and lots of work from home scams out there, but online teaching is not one of them. All of the platforms that I've reviewed in my other series on this channel are legit organizations that actually provide lessons to students and pay their teachers. Some are better than others, but they're all legitimate, real companies. Number 2, you can't actually make any real money doing that. Depending on your qualifications, your pricing, and the way you interact with your students, there is bank to be made. There are lots of other videos out there on YouTube where teachers have shared exactly how much they make in a month on their respective platforms, and they bring receipts. Watching those types of videos can be really encouraging to new online teachers. I will link some of my favorites below in the description box. Number 3, online teaching is less valuable or less serious than brick and mortar classroom teaching. I'll pose a question. Is expanding the reach of education a worthwhile and valuable thing to do? If you answer yes, then you agree with me that traditional classroom teaching and online teaching both serve important roles and both have their own places in the education space. After 2 years of pandemic, we should all know that whether you started out in a public school class or a university class and you were forced to go remote, or if you intentionally chose to learn online, in both cases, you are getting the same caliber of instruction. Some might even say that the one-to-one online format is superior to remote learning with a huge group. In a one-to-one class, you can't just mute your mic and let your mind wander. Your teacher is interacting specifically with you and waiting for your response. Engagement and interaction are key in one-to-one tutoring. Remember this argument if anyone ever tries to tell you that your job or your class isn't the real thing. Number 4, you don't need any skills or qualifications to be a successful online teacher. While it's true that some platforms like italki have both community tutors and professional teachers, and that some other language platforms don't really have any specific requirements for teacher qualifications, that doesn't mean that there are no skills involved. Whether you're helping someone to build confidence through engaging conversation lessons or putting a new spin on a grammar point to help a student catch on, online professional teachers and community tutors can be skilled educators who draw on their experience and education to make a difference in the life and education of each learner. Now let's shift gears a little bit, and I'm going to bring up some things that I've heard from some other online teachers that I don't necessarily agree with. Not to say that they're wrong, it's just not my perspective. Number 1, you don't need to prepare lesson plans for online one-to-one tutoring. This might make total sense for casual conversation lessons, but if you're doing any kind of grammar-focused lessons, I think you really should be using a placement test and taking your students' input in order to create a logical curriculum with coordinated lesson plans. It could be more free-form than your traditional classroom teaching lesson plan, but you still need to have something lined up. I think you're shortchanging your students if you're not preparing lessons and you're not planning homework in advance. You should be pricing your lessons to account for some prep time, and you should be using it. That's just my perspective. You are free to disagree. Number 2, online teaching platforms arbitrarily reject applicants. I don't want to sound insensitive, but if you've been rejected by the online teaching company that you want to work for, apply again. Find ways to strengthen your application, whether that's by redoing your introduction video, reworking your profile text, or if you need to get a teaching certificate. There are usually some reasonably priced online options for TESOL and TEFL, and that might also work for other languages too, I'm not sure. But you can usually find those kind of coupons on Groupon or similar apps. I think companies have a right to be selective when it comes to deciding who's going to represent their brand in their online teaching marketplace. Full stop. Number 3, this is the other side of that argument. Online teaching platforms are accepting too many new teachers. I've heard this from the old VIP kid crowd. I still hear it from some italki teachers on YouTube. Not all, but some. If you feel like there's too much competition and your market is flooded, then you need to find a way to set yourself apart. And you can probably do that by offering a specific type of class that other teachers just aren't able to provide. If you have a background in IT, you can create a class that is specifically for IT professionals and focus on their needs. My background is in French, so I offer a class that is specifically for speakers of French who want to learn English. It's even gone a step further than that. I had a learner of English who's from East Asia who messaged me about wanting to learn about France and the French in English. She said she's just really bored of traditional English conversation class and she wanted something with an interesting twist on it, and she thought that my background would help me to provide her with just that. And I jumped at the opportunity because that's something that sounded really interesting to me too. So I've created some lessons for her specifically about French cuisine, French culture, literature, art, and we've been having such a great time, both of us. And it's been going so well that I'm even thinking about dropping my lowest performing class. It's an IELTS prep class. I don't even like teaching it. So I'm thinking about dropping that IELTS course and adding this new French culture and English course to my actual course offerings on my italki profile. Basically, what I'm trying to say is find your niche and make it part of your brand. Don't sit around moaning about too much competition, too many new teachers. Do something about it. Set yourself apart. Number 4, I only want serious students. Maybe this is more of a specific point of view rather than a misconception, but I think it belongs on this list nonetheless. To me, this feels like an old-fashioned education mindset. Online teaching is a lot more like the service industry than it is brick and mortar traditional classroom teaching. It just is. And I actually think that's a good thing. As educators, why wouldn't we want more people to have access to online language learning with native speakers? It's good for us and it's good for our clients. I will admit that there's a lot to consider with this point, so hear me out. A viewer of this channel, an 8-year veteran with italki, I won't call you out by name. This teacher wrote a really insightful and helpful comment on a different video of mine, talking about the importance of the class count versus student count ratio. This teacher said that when students book a new teacher, they take that ratio into consideration. This is a legit concern for full-time teachers who depend on booking a certain number of classes each month. So students who aren't booking packages or who are just looking for a one-off lesson are probably skewing some teachers' stats. That's to be sure. I'm not denying the factual nature of this argument, and I'm not really even critiquing the point of view. However, does that mean that we should just refuse to teach students who, for some reason, can't or won't book a lot of classes with us? My gut says no. At my previous teaching gig with VIP Kid, I taught roughly 7,500 classes to 2,500 students. I'm not sure how great that stat really is, but okay. I'm not a math whiz, but I think that works out to about 3 classes per student. Towards the end of my time on that platform, I had switched to teaching short notice classes only, so I was teaching a lot of trial students who I never saw again. And that was mostly because I opened my availability at the very last minute, so it was hard for a student to book me in advance. I would sometimes see an old face from back when I was teaching full-time, but really I was just seeing random new kids every day, and I liked it. And I didn't have any trouble with bookings. All of that to say, aren't there multiple factors that students consider before booking you? Like your profile picture, your intro video, your qualifications, and student reviews? It can't all just hang on this class number versus student number ratio. Fortunately for some, and unfortunately for others, this pick your own teacher market might be heavily influenced by looks. Some students might want a beautiful face to talk to, while other students might want a teacher who's a bit older and has a look of wisdom about them. Gender might also be a factor. My profile picture is a headshot of me from 2016, and the beauty filter on my intro video is on 10. So I'm a straight up teacher catfish. Lesson count to student ratio might be important, but it can't be the end all be all. Anyway, I'm not here to tell anybody which students they should accept or how they should run their own business. I just want to point out that rolling our eyes at students who aren't serious enough or refusing bookings if students don't want to commit to a study plan or a package doesn't really match the sector of the education industry that we're in. Online, self-motivated, one-to-one, a la carte language lessons. Sorry if this was really long-winded or if I struck a nerve. Thanks for watching if you've made it this far. Leave me a comment if you have anything to add or if you just want to argue with me. Thanks. Bye!